Welcome once again to our few minutes together to speak about the Parsha. Parsha's Terumah talks mainly about the Kalim and the Mishkan. And the first of the Kalim, the first of the vessels that is mentioned in the Mishkan is the Aron. The Aron is described in detail with its half-measured cubits in length and width. Of course, half because we're the other half, and we have to complete it, with the three different boxes, two of gold, the outer ones, and one of wood, the inner one, which of course reminds us of the fact that we have to be impervious on the outside to outside influences and grow from the inside. But the most interesting part of it, of course, is the covering on top of the Aron, which had two cherubim, if you will. As Rashi says, they were like young children. And the pasuk in Perik Chav Hey, in pasuk Chav, says that the cherubim were parsech nafayim lemata, that the lemala, and the cherubim had their wings spread above, and they were ufneim ish el ochiv. Their faces were one to the other, looking at each other. The pasuk in Divrei Hayamim, when it discusses the two cheruvim, it says ufneihem lapoyis, that the two angel childlike faces, instead of facing each other, were facing inside to the house. And why is it that in one pasuk it says they were facing each other, here in the Chumash, and in Divrei Hayamim by Shlomo HaMelech's Beis HaMikdash, it says they were facing the house? So the Gemara in Bava Basra on Tzadik Tes makes an interesting comment. Kan, here in the Chumash, b'sha'osin ritzono shel makom, when they are doing the will of God, and kan, when they're facing the house, b'shalo osin ritzono shel makom, when they're not doing the will of Hashem. The Pardes Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Potsanovsky from Ponevezh, makes a comment in his famous commentaries on the Torah Pardes Yosef, and he says, when is it that we fulfill the will of God? When we face each other, when we look at each other and smile at each other with youthfulness, with childlike innocence, and we don't look away from each other and only face our own homes. But when we're only concerned about ourselves and we're not concerned about the other, this is kishe'ein osim ritzono shel makom. That's when we're not doing the will of Hashem. So it seems that the best thing we could do in families, parents and children, brothers and sisters, friends, relatives, rabbis and congregants, teachers and students, would be to constantly face each other and look at each other in a good way. Because as long as we face each other and look at each other and discuss things with each other, then we're osim ritzono shel makom. We're doing the will of Hashem. Well, when we turn inward and only think about ourselves, that's she'ein osim ritzono shel makom. I was faced with a very interesting dilemma. Someone came to me with the following. They know two people who were very close, neighbors, and they always got along and were always together, sharing each other's joys and sorrows and simchas. And then one of the parties gave some advice to the other one, and the advice was given with proper intent to only mean good, but unfortunately it was advice that did not pan out, and the deal went sour. And the person who suffered the loss and the travail and the pain of the deal not working out was terribly, terribly upset. And the person who gave the advice was equally upset, and they didn't know how to approach it. At the same time, the one who gave the advice was making a simcha, and they wanted to invite the other party to join together in the simcha, but they knew the other party was upset with them. They didn't know what to do. How do we bridge the gap? The one who was insulted would love to participate in the simcha, but yet they felt angry and hurt over the bad advice. The other party that gave the bad advice knew that the other party was angry with them and didn't know how to face the other party. What would you say they should do? I myself was approached by a third party who was trying to bring these two together. And I said, well, perhaps each one is too timid to approach the other for fear of rejection. You know, we live in an age of technology. Maybe we can use the technology to our advantage. Perhaps you can suggest to each one that they send a little email note, one to the other. The one who gave the poor advice can say, you know, I'm really sorry that I gave that advice. I did it with my best intentions. I'm sorry it didn't work out. I hope you're not terribly upset with me. I only meant for your good. But I'm having a simcha and I'd love you to participate. And the other one could answer back or write their own email. It's true, they were very hurt over the terrible turn of events that took place. But we'd love to share together in your simcha and be supportive of you in this time of great joy. And maybe through the anonymity of an email and yet the closeness of the email, maybe they'd be able to come together. What do you think? Do you think that there's a way to bridge the gap? But the main thing is that the two parties look at each other and come together, because that's the will of Hashem. Despite the hurt, despite the pain, that's the will of Hashem. And even when we don't necessarily always fulfill our heartmost desires for good to each other, sometimes it goes a little sour. If we face each other and work together and recognize that mistakes are made, perhaps we can face each other and be like the Keruvim and bring about that we are Osim Ritzono Shel Makom, doing the will of Hashem. What a great idea on top of the Aron Kodesh, that we can face each other and bring about peace in the world because we're Pneihem Ish Elochiv. Have a wonderful Shabbos and a good Chodesh.